Oh man, that was a difficult show to get through, y'all. Jeez, I borderline fell asleep near the end of that thing with the last couple of matches there. Man, we have suffered through yet another WWE Raw. This is your review for that show of May 17th, 2021. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. 3 straight days of streaming here on the channel. We just got done with a pretty fun weekend with a great WrestleMania Backlash and a great WrestleMania Backlash main event last night. Fun past podcast on Saturday. Maybe today is not going to be so fun because this was a pretty bland Raw, and which seems to be the case with the show. It has a lot of glaring issues right now, just with a lot of the same rematches, repeated nonsense, redundant crap. To me, if I could just get 3 hours of Riddle, I'd be fine. But unfortunately, we have to contend with 3 hours of WWE's booking and writing, and many times it's pretty goddamn awful. And tonight was just one of those times, not by any fault of the talent or anything. It's just none of the shit is really interesting at all, except a couple of things on the show that have you scratching your head or make you wonder or excited for the future or whatnot. But for the most part, damn, it's a shame. But anyway, we'll unpack it here. We'll talk about it as we go through. And hopefully make the best of it and have a good Monday night here, despite everything on the channel. So I'll go over here and say hello to people waiting in the chat, knock out a couple of super chats. We'll shoot the shit for a bit, and then we'll start getting into the results here because we've got Hell in the Cell coming up as the next pay-per-view that was announced last night. So we've got Hell in the Cell next month, I believe June 20th, and then Money in the Bank has been pushed back to its original month of July, where it used to be back in the day. So that's actually great. Unfortunately, though, it now puts Hell in the Cell in front of us. So based on what we saw tonight, especially with the beginning and Lashley and MVP coming out there and setting up the open challenge and Drew McIntyre being the first one out and Drew costing Lashley the victory in the main event, I don't know the stats on this. Somebody can look this up, but I got to say it's been close to a year since Bobby Lashley's been pinned. If I had to guess, I'd probably say somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 11 months, 9 to 11 months, somewhere in there, a really long time. So the distraction kind of finish here obviously is probably going to set up a Hell in the Cell match between Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, which will hopefully be the blow-off. In my mind, it should already be over. Drew did lose at WrestleMania, lost again in the triple threat. Now they're going to do on the Hell in the Cell match, and or at least that's probably what they're going to do and set that up maybe next week. And I guess that's fine. I suppose it could also be possible that it won't be in the actual Hell in the Cell, just take place at the pay-per-view. But I feel like the way it started, Lashley screwing Drew, their series of matches, and now going into Hell in the Cell with what happened tonight, I think they'll probably lock those guys in there since Drew is playing that whole, oh, you never beat me thing, which he actually did at WrestleMania. But it seems like everybody who's in the triple threat and loses, if they're not pinned, they feel like they've been shafted somehow, and that's clearly the rules, and triple threat matches have been around for a long time. So that was a little bit ridiculous to see that multiple times tonight with, in the same type of scenarios. But the way all this was set up tonight, it feels like it's going to be Lashley and Drew in the big red box next month, right? What do y'all think? What do y'all think about that? I guess I'm all right with it based on everything that they've, based on their storyline and stuff. But I think it's safe to say that Raw is desperate for some new challengers for Bobby Lashley. And people brought up an interesting point. When you have AJ Styles and Randy Orton that could normally be used in those situations, they're both locked up in tag teams right now. So with Keith Lee on the shelf or completely absent or disappeared, wherever he is, and no current NXT call-ups, at least on the horizon that we can see. Damien Priest is a bubbling and rising star, but I'm not sure if I'm putting him in the ring right away, right now, to get hurt locked and submitted by Lashley either. So, they're kind of weak at the top. And now that they have placed this Hell in the Cell pay-per-view in front of them, as much as we hate it, and as much as we might hate to admit it, it probably does make more sense just to do Drew and Lashley one more time, because otherwise, you got this Hell in the Cell match sitting there, this cage, what are you going to do, put Lashley in the cell against a brand new guy? So at least he's got a lot of history with Drew, and, hopefully once and for all, that'll be it, and we'll just have to sit through one more match, and it'll finally be over, and then we can head into Money in the Bank, then fans will be back, then it's SummerSlam time, and maybe brighter days are ahead of us, right? But right now, we're still just stuck in the trenches of this just boring nonsense. We're all chomping at the bit to get back to reality here. Really cool to see a full packed house at some hockey playoff games tonight. I think WWE is ready to do the same thing. And once that happens, that might, just spark a little bit more enthusiasm in the fans. But in terms of what WWE is giving us, they ain't working too hard. As a matter of fact, today, because I wanted to set the link up for the for the stream and everything, I go online and I'm trying to look at what the Raw previews are. What are we going to see tonight? It took them forever to announce anything for Raw. As a matter of fact, I don't think they announced anything at all other than Tamina and Natalya on Alexa's Playground. No one-on-one matches, none of this Bobby Lashley Open Challenge shit, no Sheamus Open Challenge shit. Nothing that they did tonight was pre-announced prior to the show, so you really didn't know what the hell they were going to do. You don't want to know why? Because they were probably writing this shit 30 minutes before they went live, because that's the way they roll. And it showed. A lot of it showed tonight, because it was 3 hours of wrestling with about 20 minutes that was significant, and that seems to be a weekly theme on Raw. So shoot me your ratings in the chat, A, B, C, or D, 0 through 10. What'd you think of this nonsense? I was not a fan. We'll see what you guys thought. In terms of some of the other wrestling programming that's out there right now, I watched the RVD Icons documentary on Peacock today. That is really good. I was excited to see that. Of all the stuff going on after the stream, I'm actually going to watch Nick Gage's Dark Side of the Ring, so I'll finally catch that. And maybe if there's time tonight, I'll also check out Shawn Michaels' A&E biography, which I think aired yesterday. But of all three of those that I haven't seen, I wanted to watch RVD's first. It was all that I thought it would be and more. I really enjoyed how they touched on every aspect of his career. A lot of the stuff that they gave us in the Icons doc we knew, or at least I knew, but it was still kind of cool to see WWE present this, in modern times, and to hear Vince talk about Rob Van Dam, because RVD was just one of those guys, that you always wonder, kind of had, weird heat, and he was kind of different, and I always admired Rob for his individuality. I always admired Rob for the fact that he just kind of stood up for himself and maintained his self-respect no matter what. He wasn't going to be the system's bitch. He wasn't going to be so overly, grateful and enthusiastic and, I care about the business more than anybody else. That type of guy that it really is just dime a dozen in the business these days. Stayed true to himself no matter what. Made a lot of mistakes, owned up to them, and speaks, very openly and honestly about everything. I think one of the things I wasn't quite aware of was the personal issues and the dark times he went through back in 2016. I know he went through the divorce, and I knew it wasn't good, but I didn't know it was putting him into depression, alcoholism, things like that, where he was drinking a lot and admitted that. I always thought Rob, had a grip on that, but apparently, he fell into hard times a while back and then met his current wife, which has been an interesting situation since they've been together, to say the least, and seems to be really happy and at peace with his life, and that's all you can really ask for. But just really a cool story, and I always just liked RVD because I lived through his whole career. I watched him during those ECW days. I watched him on that first barely legal pay-per-view. I remember when he showed up on Raw and fought Jeff Hardy, and then was there for a couple of weeks with Lawler during the WWF ECW stuff, and then he kind of disappeared and then turned back up during the Invasion, and then had that great run where he was there, Intercontinental Champion, Hardcore Champion, and then eventually all the way up until One Night Stand when he beat John Cena in one of the best matches of all time that unfortunately went terribly south about 2 weeks later when he was pulled over and busted with Sabu. So they talked about all of that, covered all aspects of his career, all the way up until his induction to the Hall of Fame. And how about Rob Van Dam giving Vince McMahon rolling papers when he went to shake his hand and do the photo op with the ring and the plaque? Oh my God, great shit. So that really, to me, was the highlight of my Monday, was watching the RVD Icons doc. So if you have not seen that, please go to the WWE Network or Peacock and check that out. It's well worth your hour and a half, whatever it is. Great stuff. Third installment in that series. They did Yokozuna first, then Beth Phoenix, now Rob Van Dam. All three of them have been phenomenal. So whatever one they do next, it's going to be good. I don't know the schedule, but whatever one's up next, I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, there's a little programming note for you. Check that out. In terms of the rest of the week, this is probably going to be it till Saturday. I've got a busy week. I'm even taking a couple of days off of work this week to film a video. And it's probably, the video won't be uploaded to YouTube for probably a couple of weeks, but I'm going to be working on that all week. And then this coming Saturday, the Winged Eagle podcast, I'll probably have a little bit different looking visual going on because I'm doing a complete overhaul of the studio here, and I'm going to document the whole thing. Even picked up a nicer camera, and going to do all sorts of cool shit, and just something for fun, something different on the channel, something that I've been looking forward to doing, and kind of clean something up around here. And I thought it was a good opportunity to produce bonus content on the channel, so I'll be working on that this week. So probably no Dynamite review or no impromptu live stream or anything like that going on. It's probably going to be Saturday next time you see me again. And then this coming Sunday, we're going to do a watch along. I'm still narrowing it down, so stay tuned to YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll give you guys a shout out on what that watch along is going to be here later on this week. But we'll definitely be up here this weekend partying hard. Let me say hello to the chat, and then we will jump into what we got to get into this evening. Good to see you. Josh is in here. So is Crush the Crusher and Melissa. We wish Melissa well. We're all here for Melissa, so show her some love tonight. Hoping she's doing okay. Ryan is here as well. Domination Warriors back. Zane G, Big J, Short, and Rejected Male. George Morris, I can't wait to read this. Thanks for the $5, dude. Greg, how are you doing? Raw 0 out of 10. Except for Tamina and Natalia, patients at the doctor's office I work were cussing and farting all day. That's typical patients at a doctor's office. I think it's a little rude, but that's the way they act. They're all crazy. They're all nuts. Seems like you work a lot of places. Yeah, you work Subway. I think you're a cop. You work at McDonald's. You work at a doctor's office. Pretty sure you're a lawyer too. George Morris can do it all. Tamina and Natalia, I have to say, actually not Natalia, Tamina might be the highlight of the show for me tonight. I loved, because of course they were supposed to be guests on Alexa's Playground. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but Tamina's demeanor during this whole thing, to me, was the most realistic anybody has been so far with Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt, where, when they're trying to play mind games with people, and Tamina just kind of looking around like, what the fuck am I doing here? Is Natty, and she's even looking at Natty like, why are you sitting on the swing? Natty's even sitting in it because Natty's an idiot, and she's sitting on the swing, and Tamina's she's looking around, she's looking at Alexa, and she goes, what the fuck? She wants to get the hell out of there. And I almost appreciated that from Tamina, because it's more realistic to be like, girl, we got to go. Let's go right now. This is weird. She's weird. That little fucking doll is going to come to life. I ain't hanging around in here. As a matter of fact, I'd prefer just to drop these belts on purpose so we don't have to come back to Raw. And they would have to face, of course, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler later on in a women's tag team title rematch. Big surprise. But we'll talk about that later on. But Natty and Tamina actually had the highlight segment for me, just because Tamina was so damn funny during the whole thing. And she was pretty funny in the match later on as well. Good to see you in here as well, Real American. I think I got you already. Jet the Hawk, Mock is back. Trey Williams and Tomas is back with the $5. Oh, I lost you. There you are. Kingston beat Lashley. Yes, and it was nice ending. Kingston beating Lashley was a nice ending to an otherwise boring, frustrating Raw. I mean, at some point, Lashley was going to have to take an L somewhere. I would have been fine with him never doing it. WWE, to their credit, have avoided up until now doing what they always do with everybody else, doing that with Lashley. I mean, obviously they haven't done it with Roman either, but it's extremely common, even for world champions, to kind of lose in non-title match situations, and it's been nice to see them not go that direction with Lashley, but they did tonight, and I think WWE knew the fans were going to have a problem with that, which is why they made the person who beat him Kofi, because it's really hard to be mad at Kofi. It's kind of like poor Rey Mysterio when he came out number 30 in the Rumble and everybody booed the shit out of him. If there would have been an audience here, I think they would have booed Kofi, because they saved this for the main event. This was a Bobby Lashley open challenge that MVP then reneged on at the end and said, no, it's no longer for the title. It's just an open challenge, but they made it sound like it was going to be somebody special. It was like the night after WrestleMania when you're expecting this big surprise and then Baron fucking Corbin shows up. So it's kind of the same thing here. It's Kofi. A lot of people were kind of hoping it was going to be Daniel Bryan. He might show up and challenge Bobby Lashley. How cool would that have been? Would have been refreshing. But instead it turned out to be Kofi, who we love, but he also had a match earlier on that he won. He defeated Randy Orton. Damn, I just thought about that out loud for the first time. That's pretty impressive. Kofi Kingston tonight defeated Randy Orton and Bobby Lashley in the same night. That ain't bad. So they made Kofi be the one to do it, which I guess is okay. It makes it sting a little bit less. And I'm glad WWE held off this long, beating Lashley, beating your champion in a cheap way in a non-title match like that. But at least that they did it with Kofi, a former champion. There's a little bit of a tie in there because, of course, MVP was that video of him and Shad Gaspard watching Kofi win the title at WrestleMania. Very emotional for them. I think it inspired MVP in a lot of ways. So that little tie in there was very cool. And I can almost live with it, but still, if it was up to me, I would have preferred Lashley just continue rolling and the next person to beat him, make it be a big deal. So I don't know what they're going to do if it does turn out to be, which I'm assuming it's going to be, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre Hell in the Cell, if you're keeping the belt on Lashley, how do you get out of that situation? You're just going to have to fucking beat Drew McIntyre. I know they don't want to, but they might have to. Unless they kick off a new feud or a new program with McIntyre somewhere, and that person involves themselves somehow in the title match and helps Bobby Lashley win again, and then maybe starts a program with McIntyre. But I think, you know, if you're going to do it one more time and you want to keep the title on Lashley until SummerSlam, I think he's got to beat Drew. He's got to beat him fair and square, you know, in the cell. Big victory for him. That would be a big deal. But we'll see what they wind up doing. Hell in the Cell still a month away or so. Oh my God, Evolution. Not one, but two Eva Marie vignettes tonight. That was sweet. Jose Lopez, good to see you. Ungovernable, PG Smooth. Atomic Cody is back. Martin, Mikey, Charlie, Chris, thanks for the $2. Which era of Raw was worse, today's or midnight? Oh my God, today's 100 times worse. Based on who I was as a fan, because as bad as 94 and 95 was, you didn't know it as much. Yes, you knew. I shouldn't say that. Actually, I very, very much knew it. It did not feel like the same product to me at all that it did in the late 80s, mid 80s as a fan. But I still got behind it. My favorite wrestler of all time was Bret the Hitman Hart with the Winged Eagle title. I named my podcast after it. You know, it was I loved that time period because of the people and the players that were there in WWE, the Bretts, Shawns, Owens, Nash, Hall, Razor, Diesel, Taker. Loved the talent there and loved what was going on at the time. But looking back, it was a really shitty time. And it wasn't as good as what I remembered from the 80s, but I was still like kind of into it. I'm not into hardly jack shit here. I mark out for very little. You know, where back in that other time period, it just wasn't, you know, wrestling wasn't so overdone and watered down because we hadn't even approached the Attitude Era yet where they just did everything. So we hadn't even gotten to that point yet. So the way you view wrestling and watch it was just different back then. But I still feel personally, since I've lived through all the eras, this era personally is worse, which is even worse when you think about it because the talent is I would say 100 times better than it was on the WWE roster in like 1994. Like from an athletic working standpoint, the talent is incredible. It's WWE's laziness, their shitty writing, their just fucked up nonsense booking. They've literally turned into the Ice Capades where they just come out there and do a little dance and leave. There's no emotion, or no investment behind any of these storylines, in every match, everybody's got to get their shit in. You got to see the 619, you got to see the 450 splash, you got to do every fucking thing in every match. They really are the Ice Capades. They just come out and do the same routine every night and go away. So that's kind of like what wrestling is, where you still had a little bit of, you still felt excited about the product in the 90s, even though the, time period was kind of shitty. You look forward to, the Bret and Owen cage matches and stuff like that. So they could have their moments. But now, man, terrible, as Charles Barkley would say. Terrible, terrible. Yeah, all the things we used to criticize WCW for is the exact same things that are happening in WWE right now, which is pretty cray. Anyway, we'll see what kind of audience we have tonight. Obviously, right now, not many people here, so if there ain't much going on, I'm going to get the fuck out of here as soon as we're done doing these results, because I'm going to hang out and watch some more wrestling tonight, and I don't want to waste my time with a boring Raw that nobody watched. So we'll see how it goes here tonight. If there's a lot of people here, engagement, people are asking questions, we'll hang out. Otherwise, I'll roll through the results here, and I'm getting out of here. And we'll try to resume things next week, hopefully with some more fun. We got Double or Nothing coming up in a couple of weeks. That'll be good. Looking forward to that. Card's looking pretty good so far. But as far as this shit goes, ay. So anyway, let's rewind all the way back to the beginning. WWE Raw tonight opens up with MVP in the ring introducing Bobby Lashley. So Lashley comes out. He's victorious. Or is this kind of like a celebration for his victory last night? Comes out, and he's followed by with what appears to be this beautiful and empowering Amtrak high-speed rail of women. I'm trying to think of a better nickname for that. What would be a way to simplify a beautiful, empowering Amtrak of women? Trying to think. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. But he comes out with all these women. He's very happy, gets in the ring. MVP brags about the title victory from the previous night. And he says, despite, Bobby Lashley had right to brag. Bobby Lashley was thrown through that LED wall last night, and he still kind of recovered from that to hit the ring and get the victory there at the end. So he has a right to brag. MVP then goes on to say that they're going to issue an open challenge tonight. And before he can even get the sentence out, Drew McIntyre's music hits. So he comes down to the ring and we're like, oh, great. So I just kind of thought that he was going to come down there and they're going to set up the Hell in the Cell match right there. He gets in the ring. Obviously, he proposes a title match for tonight, and MVP goes, no, you didn't even let me finish. You came out here before I even stopped talking. If you would have let me finish, I would have told you that Bobby Lashley's open challenge is available to anybody not named Drew McIntyre or Braun Strowman. So we'll let anybody else back there come and face Lashley tonight, but not you. So Drew, essentially, according to MVP, needs to go to the back of the line. Bobby Lashley then goes for a punch on Drew. He ducks, nails Lashley, throws him out of the ring. Lashley's all pissed, and that's kind of how it ends. So you are going to get Bobby Lashley in the main event doing that open challenge, and you knew. This is something you could have seen and was foreshadowed right here in the beginning segment. It was like, okay, Drew McIntyre is going to make his presence known in that match and possibly even cost Lashley the victory, which is what happened. So I would assume next week, it's going to be official, Lashley Drew in the big red fence. After that, we had AJ Styles and Elias. Kind of missed what happened here in the finish. I know AJ won via DQ, correct? I think Jackson Riker interfered, causing the disqualification, and I don't know how they isolated Omos. I don't know how that happened, but it looks like AJ got worked over by the both of them, and they were able to escape without being murdered by Omos. So he looks pissed off, and he's going to be coming for them. So I guess just a little mini something or other for these guys to do until they inevitably probably have to run into Randall and Matthew. Speaking of which, New Day and Riddle, this was great. This, to me, was the other highlight of the show, along with Tamina's reaction to Alexa Bliss. Backstage, you got New Day and Riddle, and Riddle said that he found a two-headed snake, and he had summoned New Day to the back to show them this two-headed snake. At the same time, he's kind of stalling when they get there. He's like, oh, it's around here somewhere, man. I don't know. And then right when he's talking, Randy Orton shows up. And Orton's like, what? You told me to meet me here. You told me to meet you here because Adam Pearce wanted to see me. So basically, Riddle parent-trapped New Day and Randy Orton because he wanted to get them to make up and apologize for what happened last week, which is just fucking adorable. So Riddle wants Orton to say sorry. He refuses. He's like, fuck no. And then New Day's like, yeah, fuck you too, dude. And then Orton's like, oh, Kofi, I'll RKO you right here and all that. And Kofi's like, oh yeah, why don't you meet me out in the ring or whatever. So this whole thing winds up setting up a Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston match for later on, which was going to be pretty funny and pretty interesting. After that, we get Alexa's Playground. It's in the backstage setting there where they have it, and Tamina and Natalya are there. Natalya doesn't seem too freaked out. She's sitting there in the swing with this big grin on her face, and I'm still not over the promo she cut on SmackDown, which I swear to Jesus was the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. And this is on the same week that Cody cut that promo on Dynamite. Natty's promo on SmackDown was like having to watch Cody's promo on Dynamite naked while being attacked by a swarm of bees. You just talk about the most uncomfortable, horrible, cringy fucking shit imaginable. That's what Natty was doing on Friday. It was so bad. And then WWE had the audacity to show a replay of that shit tonight. I'm like, don't show that again. God damn. Makes wrestling look so bad. So anyway, new tag team champions, whatever. I'm happy for Tamina, but man, that promo was just made my skin crawl on Friday night. But it was funny to see Natalya kind of just clueless sitting there in the swing, like rocking back and forth. I'm like, you better be careful. You're going to get possessed in here. Tamina looks like she's smart enough to understand something is a little freaky in here, and the way she was looking around was hilarious. Alexa Bliss would go on to ask them what their favorite colors are, and of course, Natty's like, pink. And then Tamina's like, how about black and blue, like your face is going to be if you keep fucking with us? So I kind of like Tamina saying, I'm going to kill you, Alexa. Knock the shit off. Alexa then starts spazzing out and just kind of trailing off, and she's going on and on about something, and Tamina and Natalya just leave, and that's it. And then I think Alexa turns around and says, what do you guys think? And they're gone. So she's a little bit pissed off, and I guess she's going to be turning up later in that tag match because I think she ends the whole thing saying like, good luck, ladies, or whatever. So that was actually pretty funny. I like Tamina so far, like I said, is the first wrestler who's actually acted like a real human being with this shit. because if you came into contact with somebody crazy like this, I wouldn't put up with much of their shit either. I'm like, what the fuck? See you later. It's like when Elaine stumbled into Joe Davola's house on Seinfeld. Uh-oh, better get the fuck out of here. It was kind of like that. So good for Tamina for not playing along with that nonsense. Really crazy squash here. We had Angel Garza just destroying Drew Gulak in what was essentially a squash. Continued the rose up the ass gimmick at the end there. Not much to say. We thought there was a possibility that the WWE 24/7 title may have been abandoned. And maybe they've quietly kind of phased that out because we haven't seen it in a while, but it's back. R-Truth is backstage. He's approached by that new announcer guy. R-Truth thinks that the open challenge is for his title because MVP issued the open challenge for Lashley, but R-Truth thinks it's him. It has to be explained to him that it's for Bobby Lashley's title. And he's like, oh, it's for, I forgot he calls Bobby Lashley some funny name too. He goes, oh, it's for Bob's title. Okay. But then you see Tozawa lurking in the stairwell or lurking in the background, and he sneaks up behind R-Truth and rolls him up and wins the 24/7 title. So just the same two people. This is a 2-person division. Sometimes it's like a 10-person division if 7 or 8 people, if I can do math, 8 people are chasing the other 2 people. But for the most part, this is Tozawa and R-Truth just doing weird shit, which is fine for R-Truth because he's R-Truth. But, Tozawa, you can't think of any better use for him. It's like a former cruiserweight champion. Come on, what are you guys doing? So anyway, he's champion for now. R-Truth, I'm sure, will win that title back probably next week. Then we go to the ring for Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston. This was great. So Randy Orton, music hits. I hear voice as he comes out to the ring he comes out to the ramp to make his entrance. And then Riddle, out of nowhere, just scoots up on his little scooter right beside him. What's up? He's just riding around, just messing around behind Randy. Randy's trying to do his entrance. He's trying to stay focused. And he's just looking at this guy. He's just kind of shaking his head like, this motherfucker is driving me crazy. The whole time, Riddle is lip syncing Orton's theme song. And I can feel something here between these two guys. Like I told you, like when this whole thing started, everybody's like, oh, Randy Orton's going to turn on him next week. I'm like, WWE sees this as entertaining. They're not stupid. Obviously, this is not something that can have a long shelf life. This isn't good for either guy super long term, but it's great for both guys short term. Gives Randy Orton a little bit of a breather, something a little bit more fun to do because he's just come off a really intense kind of 6 months with The Fiend and then before that with Drew McIntyre. This is a breather for him. This is something fun, and it could be also a way for some character development here, especially with Riddle, which is what I've talked about since this whole thing started. I have this whole kind of long-term plan about how these guys can almost kind of bring out the best of each other. And a lot of the bigger complaints and criticisms about Riddle is that he's a little bit too goofy. And I kind of agree with that. And I kind of wish he was a little bit more like a Rob Van Dam, who we just had the Icons doc on. I was like, I wish he had a little more Rob Van Dam in him, a little more Kurt Angle, because Kurt Angle could pull off the goofy badass back in like 99 and 2000. He was excellent at just being so fucking stupid, but goddamn, he was dangerous as hell in the ring. And I think Riddle needs to find that. Orton might be just the guy to bring that out of him. And I also think that Riddle can be the guy to show a different side of Randy that we've never seen. Randy has already had the opportunity a couple of times to absolutely annihilate Riddle, and he has not. Last week when he RKO'd the New Day, he didn't do it. He walked away. He seems very, oh, look at there. Telemarketer. Should we answer it? Nah, fuck them. He's had opportunities to really injure Riddle, but he's been hesitant. And it's like you can see Riddle getting to him a little bit. You can almost see, like, I think something's going to happen where Riddle's going to grow on Randy Orton a little bit, where Randy Orton's actually going to show or show signs of like remorse or care or even love for Riddle. I wouldn't be surprised if Riddle in the future finds himself in a situation where he's getting worked over, where a couple of heels are beating him up. Randy Orton can't get to him in time, and Riddle is laying there broken, bloody, and Orton feels bad, and and you can see that like love sort of develop. I don't want to say, I don't know why Eugene and William Regal is coming to mind. Regal wasn't hesitant of Eugene. Riddle took Eugene in right away, or Regal took Eugene in right away as his friend, where Orton is kind of hesitant to do the same with Riddle, but it's kind of like maybe Kane and X-Pac is a better example of like kind of like sort of an odd couple, but they grow this love for each other to where, it brings kind of sides of both of them out. So I think, Randy Orton will soften up and show, weakness when it comes to Riddle in certain points. But then I think that will end in the end. In the end, this thing is definitely going to leave Riddle heartbroken. I 100% believe that, but it's how you get there. Let's let these guys run for a while. Sell some RK Bro t-shirts. Let them win the tag team titles. Let Riddle be on cloud 9. And he can start, carving him and Randy Orton's names into trees, and they can be BFFs, and he can be really, really overly into the relationship where Orton's like kind of still a little bit standoffish, but he still loves him, kind of deep down. So I think that there is potential here for both guys. Imagine that. Randy Orton, a guy who's been around for so long, still finds room to develop his character a little bit, and having a side of him here to where, even though you can never truly trust him, I think he's going to warm up to Riddle enough to where he's actually going to care about him. And then when the team implodes, and you got to remember too, this is all going to probably happen pretty fast. I'm not talking about a year from now. I'm probably talking in the next 5 months or less. I think all of these stages are going to happen here. So I would love to see them win the tag team titles. That would be pretty fun. And so far, everything that Riddle has been doing with Randy Orton is entertaining, especially the way he followed him down to the ring tonight and sang his song the whole way. Fucking hilarious. In the end, the match takes place in the end. We see Xavier Woods playing the trombone, and it was enough to distract Randy Orton, and Kofi Kingston rolls him up and gets a surprise victory over him. Randy Orton is really pissed. Riddle is trying to, be the peacekeeper. Randy Orton's trying to get to the New Day and everything, and Riddle is just still, try as he might, trying to be a peacekeeper here. And again, Randy Orton does not take out his frustrations on Riddle. So you have to wonder when that's going to happen, if it's going to happen, and then Orton's going to feel bad about it, and then they'll be on the same page, or if he'll never attack him, they'll get on the same page for a while, have a run, then he'll attack him, then Riddle will be heartbroken. But, either way, this is one of the more interesting and fun things on the show because it's fun, and it's lighthearted, and honestly, truly, truthfully, I don't think it even matters where it goes. I think this is kind of good for both guys, for Riddle and Orton to be doing this. And I'm not really too concerned about where it's going to go because they're just out there having fun. Put the titles on them. Don't put the titles on them. Whatever. Just go out there, do fun things, have entertaining things happen. And then in the end, you get your Randy Orton and Matt Riddle match. And this could be Riddle's first big program in the company, his first big singles feud, working with Randy Orton that could, once this split eventually happens, span a couple of pay-per-views. Maybe 2, where they trade a couple of victories and Riddle actually, picks up a big win over Randy Orton. And like I said, it might even also act as a little bit of character development for Riddle to show all of us, the fans who have criticized him for being a little bit maybe too goofy, that he can pull back on that and be serious as a heart attack when he wants to be. So if they're able to accomplish that with this feud, then that's going to make me really happy. But does WWE care enough to accomplish that? That's the big question there, because they tend to, rush and fuck up everything. So we will see. But right now, I'm actually kind of into the Randy Orton and Riddle stuff. I have been since the beginning. Like I said, give me 3 hours of Riddle. We go backstage. We've got Sonya Deville, Adam Pearce, Charlotte, and Rhea Ripley hanging out together backstage. Little picnic. They announced that it's going to be Charlotte taking on Asuka. Later on in the night, Rhea Ripley is there, and Charlotte, just like Drew McIntyre, she's all pissed off because she, of course, didn't take the fall in the triple threat match. These wrestlers never knew the rules of a triple threat. It's just a little bit, kind of overdone that they're all saying this. It's always the same thing. Oh, I didn't lose, so I didn't get another match or whatever. So Charlotte's going to be taking on Asuka later. I think the stip that they made in this is that if Charlotte beats her, she gets a title shot against Rhea Ripley. And Rhea says that she'll be out there at ringside watching that match later on. After that, we got Natalya and Tamina defending the women's tag team titles against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Rematch here. Hopefully, the blow off to this nonsense. We get Alexa Bliss appearing on stage, kind of watching the match. At the same time, Reginald is starting to walk his way up the stairs, and I guess seemingly to interfere, and then pyro goes off, like Kane's pyro, shoots out of the ring posts. He goes flying back, seemingly burned. That was enough to distract Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Oh my God, Reginald's been blown up on the outside of the ring, and I can't remember who got pinned there. That caused the finish. I think Natalya or Tamina rolled one of them up, won the match, retained the titles. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They hit him with the heart attack. Heart attack for the win. I can't remember which one they grabbed. Must have been Shayna. It's probably pretty hard to get Nia up in heart attack position. But Natalya lifted her up. Boom. Tamina comes in with the clothesline, and Natty and Tamina retain the titles. That's good because I am so over the Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax team. I hope this is it. I hope this concern for Reginald on the outside is enough to push Shayna Baszler over the edge and finally be fed up with Nia Jax, because you got to remember, when they got together, they didn't like each other anyway. So let's just end this shit, have these two feud for a bit, and just be done with this team, because they held the belts way longer than I wanted them to. So we'll see where that goes, but hopefully that's the end, and Natalya and Tamina can now have fresh challengers on both brands and do some fun stuff. And I don't know if Alexa Bliss is going to continue to be a part of their deal or not. No idea. What do we have next? Let me pull up my notes here to the correct spot. There we go. What do we have next? We had Sheamus and Ricochet. Ricochet is back. Now, last night we made fun of him because he was out there wrestling in street clothes, I guess for the reason that it was an open challenge and he didn't have time to put his gear on. But the match happened way late in the kickoff show, and they announced that Sheamus was going to do the open challenge in the beginning of the kickoff show. So I'm like, what the fuck is he out there in street clothes for? He did it again tonight. Another open challenge again tonight. Sheamus comes out to the ring. He's, I'm sorry, I think it's Sheamus is calling out Ricochet is what it is. Sheamus goes out to the ring, gets on the mic, pissed about last night because after he beat Ricochet on the kickoff show, Ricochet stole his jacket. Jean-Pierre Lafitte Sheamus's hat and jacket, put it on. I'm sure that felt great, that heavy velvet jacket, wearing that right after a match in the middle of May in Florida. I'm sure that wasn't uncomfortable at all. Puts on his hat and jacket. This was enough, and I guess he stole it or something. This was enough to piss off Sheamus. Sheamus wants a piece of him, and Ricochet is in the back doing an interview, putting on the jacket and hat and taunting Sheamus with it, and goes out and has a match with him. Gets his ass kicked. He has Sheamus on the ropes a little bit, almost beats him, but there was kind of a weird near fall / botch at the end. I think Sheamus hit Ricochet with a brogue kick. The ref counted 3, but then it looked like Ricochet got his shoulder up. That looked like a botch to me. They redid the spot, brogue kick again to Ricochet, and he was pinned for the win. And Sheamus beats him twice in two non-title matches there. So I was kind of hoping they would give Ricochet a victory here, because when you think about Raw lacking, challengers for Bobby Lashley, Ricochet is a guy that if you would have just booked well, he could be on the same level on the Raw roster that someone like a Jey Uso is on the SmackDown roster. He'd be a guy that would be a fun, just random opponent for Bobby Lashley one month at a pay-per-view, to defend the title against. I mean, I've always brought up this match, but a couple of years ago when they did that King of the Ring, Ricochet beat Drew McIntyre in a fantastic match, one-on-one, clean, right in the middle of the ring on Raw. Where's that Ricochet? Where's he? What's different about him now? What the fuck? Why didn't you just continue on that road with him? This guy could have been, United States champion by now. He could have been, maybe had a run with the IC title, had a little bit more better of a spot on the roster, to where if you do have a champion that has blown through all his immediate top contenders on the show, you can do every now and then. It's okay to do one of those pay-per-views where you kind of give a new opportunity to a new guy, like we just saw last night with Cesaro. And then you do some, triple threat or fatal 4-way on the show, number 1 contenders match. Not my favorite way to determine challengers, but I'm okay with it sometimes. And you have Ricochet win, but instead of jobber Ricochet winning it, it's Ricochet who's got a good spot on the card, who wins matches frequently and has won some championships. He's the one winning it. And you're like, that's a really good idea. Give Ricochet an opportunity. Yeah, put him out there with Lashley. He's going to lose, but he's going to give Lashley a really good match, and it might help up his stock a little bit in the company. But instead, Ricochet is fighting to stay out of catering. And what kind of world is this that we're living in? Ricochet is incredible. I think he's not the best promo and stuff, but a guy like him, he's athleticism first, promo second. So not being able to, be the Rock on the mic shouldn't, completely stunt his growth and keep him in catering for as long as it has. It's messed up. So anyway, he loses again here. Not going to do much for Ricochet in terms of where he is on the roster, but he should be a bigger deal. A much bigger deal. After that, we had a Mace and T-Bar promo backstage. I think they're talking about Lashley. I don't know. I didn't really listen to them. And then after that, we get Asuka and Charlotte. Damn near fell asleep during this match. I caught very, very little of it. I know Rhea Ripley came out there about midway through, hung out on commentary for a bit, jumped up on the apron, took a boot from Charlotte. Asuka rolled her up and got the win. So here we thought it was going to be just yet another victory for Charlotte, and Asuka beat her. Thank God, because I hate seeing Asuka be the odd woman out here. She's, she lost to Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. She was seemingly put in the triple threat match last night to eat the pin. If they would have beat her here, that would have been just about enough for me to even tolerate. So I'm glad she got the roll-up win against Charlotte, who was back this week, or back tonight, rocking that Dalmatian gear again. After that, we got Damien Priest taking on John Morrison this time in a lumberjack match, but this time it's regular lumberjacks, not zombie jacks. And of course, that nonsense last night that set the business back 30 years, according to Chris Jericho, which was pretty funny because of course WWE had a lot of opinions on the blood and guts match. They're going to pass criticism, but then they're going to present what the fuck they presented last night. Are you shitting me? Fucking zombies, movie promotion or not, it was fucking dumb. And you had zombies out there. The only cool thing about the zombies, a report by Fightful Select today revealed the identity of the zombies, and the only name that stuck out to me was Wayne Bloom's son. Wayne Bloom, one half of the Beverly Brothers from back in the day. So his son apparently was one of the zombies. I thought that was kind of cool. But other than that, that whole zombie shit from last night really came dangerously close to ruining the entire pay-per-view. Thanks to Cesaro and Roman Reigns, and Lashley and Drew and Strowman for that matter, but really Roman and Cesaro. That was not the case. The pay-per-view was very good, and it had one of the greatest professional wrestling main event matches we've seen in modern history with Cesaro and Roman. So not even the zombies can fuck up the job they did, but damn did they come close. Now it's a lumberjack match again. No zombies this time, regular jacks. I did notice Nikki Cross out there randomly. Some people have been throwing out the idea that Nikki Cross could turn out to be Lily in human form, which would be fun. I wish they would have has there been any sort of segment on TV? Maybe there has. Back when Alexa first started kind of coming under the spell of Bray Wyatt. And remember, Nikki Cross was kind of concerned. She approached her a couple times backstage, and Alexa kind of blew her off. Oh, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. I wish there would have been a situation there where Alexa like scratched her or bit her, or something like that. And then, you just subtly see Nikki Cross on TV every now and then, like in a lumberjack match like tonight, where, maybe she's got, bags around her eyes, or she's starting, maybe they're putting some makeup on her to look like she's kind of got a pale face, or, she's just looking a little weird, and she's like kind of slowly, not make it too obvious to the audience, just like tiny little things, and if they would have like planted those seeds so long ago, that would have been cool if it turns out to be like Nikki Cross. But she was out there, I think, in the lumberjack match doing her thing. I didn't really watch it. I was puttering around the house, didn't care. You knew that, is John Morrison going to beat Damien Priest in the lumberjack match? Come on. I think Morrison cut a promo prior to that where he was not sure where The Miz was, because I kind of forgot. I don't know anything about zombies and shit like that. Zombies are dead people that come back to life, right? I was kind of thinking they eat you, but I think what happens if they get to you, then you turn into a zombie. Is that how it works? So anyway, Miz is either dead or a zombie. That's all I know. So Morrison is kind of showing some concern for that wherever the Miz is. He hopes he's okay. Miz might come back as a zombie. I mean, if Alexa Bliss is doing what she's doing, why can't the Miz be a zombie? The Miz be. I don't know what you'd call it. Probably freak his little daughters out pretty good. But yeah, like as soon as I saw this match was going to happen, I'm like, well, I'm not going to stay in the room and watch this. I'm going to go do something else, because is Morrison going to beat him? Fuck no. Priest is on a roll, continues to be on a roll, beat John Morrison in the lumberjack match. I don't even know how it ended. He hit the lights on him and pin him. Not even sure. But Priest got the victory there. We had a lot of the lumberjacks were fighting each other during that whole deal, including Shelton and Cedric. They continue their brawl backstage later on when Shelton Benjamin is being interviewed. And then after that, we have the Bobby Lashley Open Challenge as advertised in the main event. And they get in the ring, and I think MVP might have gotten on the mic and said, all right, bring it on, whoever it's going to be. And the New Day comes out. So Kofi and Xavier are back. It kind of reminded me, I thought they were going to do a WrestleMania 33 moment here, where the New Day came out and then announced the Hardy Boys. I thought maybe it was going to be Xavier and Kofi announcing Daniel Bryan coming out. I thought that would be really cool, but nope. Turned out to be actually Kofi, who was going to be the one to challenge here. And we talked about this earlier on at the beginning of the podcast. This probably was the right guy to put in there, considering that beating Bobby Lashley for the first time in 9, 10, 11 months, however long it's been, at least pinning him, you got to have the right guy to do that, to where the fans, can at least stomach it a bit more. I would have preferred them never pinning Lashley, because I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't feel that's something they would do to Roman. I don't think we're going to see Roman in a scenario where he's rolled up and pinned on SmackDown. I really think they want to protect him. And I think they should do the same thing to Bobby Lashley on the Raw side. So not thrilled that he took a roll-up loss here, but at least he did so to Kofi. And, this is a former champion, and it furthers the issue between Bobby and Drew because WWE needs, I think, one little extra reason to stick these guys in the red fence next month. So Bobby cost Drew the title. Now Drew has cost him a victory. Drew is a thorn in Bobby's side. He can't get rid of Bobby can't get rid of Drew no matter what he tries. Beats him at WrestleMania, beats him in a triple threat, still hanging around. So let's blow the whole thing off in the Hell in the Cell and finally be done with it. And hopefully by then, maybe we've heard rumors of a roster shakeup. We've heard rumors of a lot of things. So maybe after Hell in the Cell, Bobby can have some fresh faces on the horizon because we got SummerSlam coming up. So if we can get Keith Lee back in the mix, or if you can move some roster members around, I never think that shaking up the rosters is the answer. WWE does when the ratings are bad. Oh, we got to switch the talent. No, dumbasses. You got to stop being so lazy and shitty and horrible with your booking. Talent's not the problem. You are. Shake up backstage. Don't shake up what we see on TV. Everything's fine. You've got the talent. You just don't know how to use it. At all, like literally at all. Monkeys back there writing the shit. So we might see, a little bit of a talent swap here or some sort of a shakeup leading into July as we get fans back, because there have been some reports that WWE is also changing up the Raw set. When fans come back, we should see a new look Raw, which is fine, but seems like we've already seen a new look Raw recently prior to the pandemic. Excuse me. So they might, kind of change things up and spice things up for when the fans come back, and the fans are going to help. But I feel like right now we're in this holding pattern because I already hate the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view as it is. If you put Lashley and Drew in a Hell in the Cell, and then on the SmackDown side, you either do Seth and Cesaro, or you do, maybe you do Roman and Jimmy Uso like we speculated on. I think the Hell in the Cell matches have the potential to be great. You could put a women in there as well, but overall, I'm never really a big fan of Hell in the Cell pay-per-view in general. So I kind of just want to get to July so we can get to fans being back and everything being back to normal, and I am just ready for that. So up into, between now and then, we just still have to sit through this Thunderdome, and hopefully after that, things will get better because fans are starting to show back up at hockey, and we're going to have, fans are at baseball games again, and the world is starting to open back up. I think we're all ready for wrestling to open back up too. Know what I'm saying? Anyway, let me cruise over to the chat, see if you guys are behaving yourselves. I think so. Brock Lesnar, we talked about him a lot. We've been talking about him a lot lately. Setting up some sort of a big match at SummerSlam with Brock and like Roman would be incredible. Or Brock and Lashley. There's so many good matches to be had there. Daniel Mendiola, good to see you. Thanks for the $2. I turned 31 yesterday. Right on, DM23. 31. Well, 31's a big one. I remember 31 because you're no longer 30. You're in your 30s. That's a big deal, man. It's small, but it's different. Like, I remember being a little bit more affected by 31 than I was for 30. My 30th birthday was a blast. I had a great time. Welcome to 30. Fuck you, 30. I ran a mile the day before my birthday, just as my fuck you to 30. I can still do it kind of thing. When I turned 31 and then it hit me, I'm like, oh crap, I'm like halfway to death. I'm kidding. I'm actually 13 years older than 31, so it's all good. But Danny, happy birthday to you. Happy belated birthday, and welcome to the big time. 30s is no joke. So that means what? You were born in 1990? Holy shit. So you were born after Warrior and Hogan. Interesting. Youngins. Chris Miner. Oh, I got you, Chris Miner. Okay, cool. I'm caught up with the super chats then. That's good. Oh, yeah, Trey, tell me about it. Remember back when we were doing the Performance Center shows? My God, what a time. I mean, the Thunderdome, when that was created, I loved it. I thought it was just something that was so necessary and really improved the product. But again, something like that has a shelf life. I mean, how long can we put up with fake fans and piped in crowd noise and shit? It was just much better than the PC. But now we're over it. We're ready for reality again. We want to hear some true fan reactions. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see them back, hear them back. ready to go to wrestling shows again. I'm not going to make Double or Nothing. Obviously, I know some people in the community are going to Double or Nothing, but that's a long place for me to fly from California to Jacksonville. But I will be in Texas for WrestleMania. We'll be here in LA for WrestleMania 39, maybe some other shows as well. I'm ready just to get back in the mix, I think we all are. Yeah, I think the Shield will reunite at some point. Jon Moxley and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns will all be in the ring again at some point, somewhere. Obviously probably WWE. Just don't know when that's going to be. Bray Wyatt, lots of rumors about him. Rumored to go to SmackDown versus Roman. That would be awesome. Roman, yes. I mean, Roman's probably going to need another opponent as well. I guess what happened last night, we'll find out on Friday, but I guess maybe last night really was a one-off with Cesaro and Roman. And that's okay because, they avoided so much bullshit in that match last night. Did you notice there was no Jey Uso? There's no interference. We got a wrestling match, y'all. We got a wrestling match for a championship belt with a clean winner and a clean loser right in the middle of the ring. Finally. It was so nice without any bullshit. Nobody was out there. 14 run-ins, ref bumps, 6 referees, all the shit that normally happens. It was just a match. And Cesaro passed out and came very close to winning, but it was not to be. So if that was a legit one-off, it actually fits because what grounds does Cesaro have to get an immediate title shot? He can work his way back up, win a couple more matches, get a shot again down the road. But what grounds does he have to stand on to come out on Friday and say, I want another rematch with you right now? Roman's gonna be like, fuck you. I beat you on Sunday. I'm not doing this again. It's going to take Adam Pearce or Sonya or somebody to come out there and say, oh, yes, you are. You're going to face him again at Hell in the Cell or whatever. But based on the end of the match when Seth Rollins came out there and fucked him up, damaged his arm and did all of that, I would think that we might not see Cesaro for a couple of weeks. Then he'll return, challenge Seth Rollins in a Hell in the Cell, which I would love. But again, it might be yet another loss for Seth Rollins. Are they going to put him in there to do the trifecta of jobs to Cesaro? 3 in a row? And that's what it would be, right? Cesaro beat him at WrestleMania, yes. And didn't he beat him on SmackDown after that to get that shot against Roman, right? So now he's going to go in the cell with him and beat him again. It looks like that might be the way to get what they're doing. And that's awesome that Seth Rollins would put him over. But part of me worries that Seth might go over too. Because Seth is still a big deal. I think Seth is still a world title contender. There was that little tease last night when he got to the ring and he got out there and he had a little face-off with Roman Reigns and then turned his attention to Cesaro. There's a lot of story and a lot of meat on that Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns bone. And a lot of it wouldn't be repetitive because this is a new Roman Reigns. This is a completely different character, head of the table, tribal chief type of shit. A conflict between him and Seth because you got to remember Seth that preaches that he's the greatest too. So even though they're kind of coexisting for the moment, they kind of have the same vibe. They believe that everybody should be following their lead, and then what happens when, who's going to back down from who there? Roman ain't backing down for a second on Seth. Seth might be a little more likely to do so, but probably not either in the long run. So don't know where the future lies for either guy unless they want to maybe move somebody and, send Cesaro after this, because he's kind of done now with Roman. If he has his match with Seth Rollins and then beats him, again, that's going to up his stock again and maybe put him in line for a title shot. But are you going to do Roman and Cesaro again? Maybe you do Roman and Cesaro at Money in the Bank in a rematch. But like I said, we just saw they already had their one-on-one mano-a-mano match and Roman won. So maybe Cesaro then bounces over to Monday Night Raw and maybe mixes it up with Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley. I'd love to see if you could have plopped Cesaro in the middle of all this. Is a really credible contender. I would have loved to see Cesaro involved in the Strowman and the Lashley and the McIntyre stuff. Would be great. So maybe they move him after this. I don't know. But hopefully it will not be the last time Cesaro gets a title match because it's been a decade coming for this guy, and he finally got a world title match in the pay-per-view main event. And now, like I said, the only thing missing from that performance was fans. I think had fans been in the arena, we'd be talking about match of the year. We might still be talking about match of the year, or at least candidate. Maybe you guys are, maybe you're not. But I think it's at least in the conversation. And imagine if fans were to be there and really be behind Cesaro the way we know they would be. It'd be pretty interesting. What if Rey Mysterio went to WWF in 2000? I don't know, man. Leather Wings, thank you for the $2. It took Rey a long time to get there. He didn't even come in the Invasion stuff. Which was surprising. It took him a while. I guess he came in, late 02? Was it late or mid 02? Yeah, because by I guess it was right after WrestleMania, because by the time it was SummerSlam, he was wrestling Angle. So he must have came in right after WrestleMania 18, probably around the same time Brock came in. If he would have came in earlier, I don't know. In 2000, I got to be honest, I'm not sure if they would have been ready for him. I think by the time he came in, there was extra talent on the roster, because that was, 2000. If he would have came in 2000, that would have been prior to the buyout. So Benoit would have been there. Eddie would have been there. Malenko would have been there. Jericho would have been there. But a lot of guys still wouldn't. So I think Ray honestly came in at the right time. He came in the perfect time, because they was kind of like a top tier guy right from the start. Where in WCW, it felt like he was always a cruiserweight, with the occasional match, the unmasking match with Nash, and maybe bigger profile pay-per-view matches. But he's coming in right off the bat and working with guys like Kurt and shit on pay-per-view. And then he kind of slid down a little bit, and then was doing the cruiserweight title thing, right, with like Matt Hardy. He worked with him at WrestleMania 19. But he was always kind of in the mix at like the top of the card. I kind of think he came in at the better time. I'm not sure if there was room for him in 2000, not when Austin and Rock and everybody is just, everything's cooking so hard. I honestly think he came to the WWE at the right time. And he's one of the only guys I say that about, because everybody from WCW, I feel like, took too long to get there. Flair and Goldberg and Hogan and Nash and Hall, they all took way too long. It was the Booker T's and the Lance Storms and the DDPs that came in right away. Everybody else I felt like should have been there sooner, maybe except for Ray. Ray's like the special case. Oh man, Jose Lopez, your phone died. Get your shit together, man. I'm kidding. It happens to the best of us. My phone's almost dead too. As a matter of fact, right before I went live here, my batteries died in my mouse. And I couldn't even click start streaming, so I was scrambling around looking for some double A's, looking for some Arn Andersons up here, but I found some, and we were able to rock. Wayne Holt, I just pray for Bray, everything he's going through. Get your help in coming back stronger, my friend. Let me in, yowie wowie. Yeah, a lot of talk about Bray Wyatt. Rumors, about maybe, mental stuff with him, but nothing concrete. So hopefully there's nothing to that. I really hope he's all right. But Brody Lee was a dear friend of his, and I think a lot of wrestlers, Big E and so many others really, were really affected by his death. And it's going to take a long time for a lot of people to get over. I think today is also the 1-year anniversary of the death of Shad Gaspard, who died a hero, just an absolute great man who unfortunately, was swept away to sea in LA last year, right when the pandemic started. It was a kick in the gut wrestling fans certainly didn't need, with everything else that was going around in the pandemic, and just wrestling kind of just being, in a really bad place in general, and then just adding to the misery, you have this tragic death, of this guy who basically had to die saving his son, and just fucking horrible. So it's been 1 year for Shad Gaspard. Many people felt he should have been the recipient of the Warrior Award this year. I'm one of those people. But 1 year, it's just doesn't seem real. Doesn't seem real. A lot of talk, too. We talked about her last night. We talked about Becky Lynch. And I think bringing Becky back, if I had to put a date on it, I would do it the first Raw with fans, which I think, not sure, not totally sure, but we think is probably going to be the Monday night after Money in the Bank, which would be July 18th or some shit like that. So the 19th, I think, July 19th is the day that I think Raw will have fans for the first time, unless they, speed it up and do it a little bit sooner. And since that will also be the night after Money in the Bank, it means that the next pay-per-view on the calendar will be SummerSlam. So if you bring Becky back and she challenges Rhea Ripley, that's what I would do, because with Becky, you got to remember, she's one that can come right in. She can walk right in the door and be like, title match, please. They absolutely will give it to her. She don't have to work her way up. She gave the belt away. She gave it away. She was champion for a year. Nobody beat her. She even successfully retained it at WrestleMania when we all thought she would lose it, and then handed it to Asuka because she got pregnant. So when she comes back in, she should have an automatic title shot. It should be only a matter of her appearing on the show, showing up in general, and boom, there you go. That match is set. So that's what I would do at the night after Money in the Bank, whoever the champion is, assuming it's Rhea Ripley, assuming Rhea survives her challenges at Hell in the Cell, at Money in the Bank. Nobody cashes in on her or anything like that. Becky Lynch then shows up and challenges her for the title at SummerSlam. Some people thought Becky would be a good candidate to win the Money in the Bank, but she doesn't need to. She doesn't need to. Give that to another woman, because Becky, like I said, just deserves a title shot outright. She shouldn't have to have the briefcase to get that shot. You know what I mean? So save the briefcase. Save the briefcase for somebody else, since Becky can get a shot without it. So WWE doesn't think that way, though. They might very well bring Becky back as a surprise at the Money in the Bank to win the briefcase, just for the moment, just for the pop. The very next night, she can cash it right in right there if she wants, or she can do something that nobody has done in quite some time. When I said watch the Rob Van Dam Icons doc today, it was cool. He was the second ever Money in the Bank winner, and he said, "I'm cashing in at One Night Stand." And you don't see that very often. How many in history, you guys probably know, Barry probably knows, how many Money in the Bank winners in history have set the date for their cash in instead of just coming out and taking advantage of an opportunity? So it's been very few. So I could see Becky winning the briefcase and just say, "I'm cashing it at SummerSlam. I want my title back at SummerSlam." But that would be a waste of the briefcase to me. Becky should just get a title shot automatically, and maybe the briefcase goes on the SmackDown side. Maybe whoever wins the briefcase cashes it in and gets some extraordinary heat on Bianca Belair. Bayley comes to mind as a fabulous Money in the Bank briefcase holder, because she would be awesome with that. She'd be obnoxious as hell. And she won it before. I don't think she has, but I just think Bayley would be wonderful if she had the briefcase. So we'll see what happens, but I really want Becky back by the summer, I hope. Wilson Pena, you're probably right about that. Knowing WWE, they will announce her return to probably help spark a rating or something like that. But, I'm thinking of it in the context of, there's fans back in the building for the first time. So just her music hitting and her coming out as a surprise, what would WWE rather have? Would they rather have that pop and that moment, or would they rather be so worried about the ratings they want to try to pre-announce this so fans tune in? I think just having her show up would be incredible. It would be the closest thing to a post WrestleMania Raw we had this past year was shit. And you need that moment. You need that big surprise. You need something to really pop the audience. We haven't had that in a year and a half. I mean, it was pretty much all over after Royal Rumble last year. I know there was a few live shows prior to WrestleMania last year, but it feels like we're venturing into close to a year and a half of this shit going on now. And I think it's what the fans need, they need that. So I'm hoping that they do something fun and they don't just make it a mess. Sasha Banks winning the briefcase would also be awesome. Okay, RVD and Cena were the only ones. RVD in 06, Cena in 2012, and Strowman in 28 announced there in 2018. When did Strowman do it? Oh yeah, and Strowman, he lost. Did he lose it? I forgot what Strowman even did. I forgot he was the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. I don't know if you could count Kennedy on the list, because I think technically he did announce it. It just didn't happen. I liked his. I thought his was cool. He's like, it's the only time I think they've announced a match like a year ahead of time. They did it with Rock and Cena. But when Kennedy won the briefcase, he said, "I'm cashing in at the next WrestleMania," which, as cool as it was, it also put him in a bad spot, because there's a whole lot of time that shit can go south between then and a whole year from then. So he wound up losing the briefcase, never even got a chance to cash it in. So, okay, yeah, Bayley has won before. Did she win the title and then held it for a year? I don't even fucking remember. I don't even remember. Okay, Jose Lopez, you can work for me if I run a wrestling promotion. Gotcha. You're going to be in charge of changing the side plates on title belts. It's going to be your job. Yeah, and SummerSlam definitely feels like a likely target for her as well. Possibly Ronda, maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of giving up on Ronda. Just want the best for her. Happy about her pregnancy, and she may be enjoying a whole lot of fruits of her labors, because that woman is set for life, probably wiping her ass with 20s. What does she even need to come back to wrestling for? So she could just, kind of enjoy being a family person now. But if she gets the itch, and she wants to come back. I know I personally would love to have her. I'm probably one of the bigger Ronda Rousey professional wrestler fans there is, because I think Ronda Rousey, she got a lot of judgment from a lot of fans, but if you just watch her and watch how good she was, we were lucky to have her. We were lucky to have someone like her that came in with such a big name from a different sport and took to wrestling the way she did. I always compared her to Kurt Angle. They're the top male and female star to ever transition into wrestling so well. I mean, they're the best to ever do it. Kurt Angle, like, almost instantly picked it up, understood it, knew what he was doing. Ronda, I don't think she was quite as good as Kurt Angle, but close. I mean, she fit into wrestling like a glove. And I was in the building. The night that I believe in my mind might be the reason we never see Ronda again, when those fans in the Staples Center turned on her at Survivor Series 2018. Blew my mind. After these fans fucking freak out over everything Charlotte does, and then all of a sudden, they're on Charlotte's side and they're booing Ronda, and even Ronda's looking around like, what the fuck? It was crazy. It made no sense. I remember sitting there in my seat being like, this is insane. This is why I don't like wrestling fans, because they're all crazy. And it just didn't make any sense, So I felt like for one night only, I was in Toronto. I was like in a bizarro world. I'm like, what are they doing? Ronda's awesome. And she got worn out. I mean, Charlotte just wore her the fuck out with that kendo stick. She was battered. She was bruised. And she was a baby face. And she had to walk back to the ring with fans saying, you deserve it, and laughing at her and all that shit. Pretty fucked up. So if she never wants to come back again, I don't blame her. I think if you're an outsider coming into this fan base, it's probably quite the shock when you realize how these people can be. Like, I don't want to break my back to entertain them. They don't deserve it. So I'm out of here. Have a nice life wrestling. Appreciate the year-long run. And you're never going to see me again. That might be the case with Ronda Rousey. Only time will tell. But I think that's going to wrap it up for me tonight. I got to get out of here. Like I said, big week, and filming a video this week and doing some fun stuff and changes on the channel. You will see me this coming Saturday for the Winged Eagle, this coming Sunday for a watch-along on a classic pay-per-view, and then 1 week from tonight for our next Monday Night Raw review. So I appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. Oh, yeah, that's right. Cena announced his. I remember that. That's right, the Rock match. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me this evening on a fun Monday night, despite the fact that we kind of had a shitty Monday Night Raw tonight. As usual, we make it fun. We made it fun, and it's always a pleasure to be here with you guys. So have a good rest of your week, and I will catch you